a man who has been part of one of the hottest shows on television, Scandal, which airs every Thursday at 9 on ABC, and the season 5 finale airs this coming Thursday on May the 12th. He is the man who plays President Fitzgerald Grant. Good to see you, Tony Goldwyn.
Thanks.
How are you, bud?
I'm great.
Good to see you.
Here. Thanks, man.
What is it like playing the President of the United States on a show like that? What in the world is that like?
It's fantastic because I have a lot of the fun and none of the pressure.
Right.
You know what I mean? I get to have people call me Mr. President and walk around, and literally when I come on the set, people say Mr. President, and I don't contradict them.
You don't. So you don't have to legislate. You just have to.
I get to have fun, and we sort of focus on the non-legislative parts of this character's life.
Yeah, I mean, when I first started watching Scandal, I'm like, man, does the President of the United States get this busy all the time?
Can you imagine what a mess our country would be in?
I could not imagine that.
Yeah.
No, but it is a fun show, and you're great in it. Kerry
Oh,
Washington playing
amazing.
Olivia Pope is fantastic as well. And I mentioned to you off the air, I know her husband in real life, Nnamdi Asomugha.
Nnamdi, who's amazing.
You know, one of the greatest shutdown corners in the history of the recent history of the NFL.
No
Has he ever shut you down, Tony?
Amazingly, he hasn't.
He hasn't.
I always get a hug, and he's just the sweetest person.
He really is.
Yeah.
Well, he seems more evolved than most of all of us people on planet Earth anyway.
That's really true. I mean, given what that guy does way beyond football, in terms of, charity and just helping people around the world, and he's an incredible human being.
He is, but then there's nothing like, okay, now you're going to be with my wife on a show like Scandal. There's nothing like that.
I was a little nervous at first, but he's just such a warm dude.
He is.
Yeah, so
He's a
there's
good
never
dude.
been a problem.
That's good. Tony Goldwyn here on the Rich Eisen Show. Okay, so you grew up in Los Angeles.
I did.
Does that makes you a fan of which teams of the Los
Lakers?
Angeles? Okay.
In terms of basketball, Dodgers, and when I was growing up, when I was a kid, the Rams were still in L.A.
Yeah.
But honestly, they weren't so great. I mean, I like some of the old timers, Rosie Greer,
Of course.
and
Jack
Merlin
Youngblood.
Olsen, exactly, and those guys. So, but I was still pretty young, so I was a huge USC football fan. My dad started taking the very first football game I ever went to when I was a little kid. O.J. Simpson
Was running for the Trojans.
and my dad said, I think I was 7 years old, and he said, "You have to see this guy run. He's the greatest athlete ever." And I remember, it's one of my early memories of seeing O.J. score touchdowns. But then I was at some legendary USC games in the 70s, and it was amazing. So,
And the amazing thing too is that football is back in L.A. professional. The Rams are back in L.A.
Yep.
And the first 3 years they're playing in the Coliseum.
I know, and I will become a Rams fan yet again. I really will, because I had a lot of great memories as a child in that Coliseum.
Yeah, and we've had Jack Youngblood on the show before. Actually, we had him on the day that the Rams were announced they were coming back to Los Angeles, and he said he always has been dreaming of going through the Coliseum tunnel one more time.
Wow.
And that's I'm actually, I get goosebumps even
Yeah,
thinking about
right.
it,
No
because I
kidding.
think it's going. I mean, they're going to absolutely make stuff like that happen.
Yeah.
And
for
then
sure.
Pete Carroll, the former USC coach, more recently than obviously when you were there, he coaches the Seattle Seahawks. He's going to be coming into that stadium. There's all sorts of
Isn't it great?
LA Coliseum moments that are going to be back.
Yeah, and it's
in
a
the
great
mix.
stadium, and it's So I'm really excited for that. To come back to LA.
and so because a lot of people think that folks in LA aren't going to really respond in that regard.
I totally disagree. Look, I mean, LA has two, basketball teams. The fans have been super faithful, and I don't know. I think the city's hungry for a football team.
So Lakers are your team. So you were there with the Magic and the Magic years, the Showtime
the Magic years, and before that, for basketball, for me, it was more UCLA when I was getting the Lakers.
Yeah.
And then USC football, and then the Rams abandoned us, and then the Raiders came in for a little while, but I wasn't, they didn't stay long enough to get.
Well, now the idea is they might go to Las Vegas. By the way, I know you've been working. Yeah, I know you've been working on a new movie, Felt, as a matter of fact, that you're working on right now about the Watergate years, actually, to sort of a very interesting new take for your career on the DC politics of things. But yeah, they're kicking the tires on maybe going to Las Vegas,
Wow,
the Vegas Raiders.
I'm out of the loop.
And I know you're a movie guy from your family history.
Right.
The idea that we have here on the Rich Eisen Show is that their new logo would be the pirate with the patch covering the eye, but the pirate would be Mo Green
Oh, there you go.
Covering the eye.
That's perfect.
Covering the eye that he sadly lost when
That's right. I think
when
they
all
should do
family
that.
business was settled
Exactly.
on one very, very long day.
Exactly.
So growing up in Los Angeles as part of the Goldwyn family, I mean, what in the world was that like for you,
Well, it was
Tony?
it was a mixed kind of thing because my grandparents, my grandpa was Samuel Goldwyn, who was one of the founders of the movie business, really, and he was when I was with them and with my grandmother and grandfather. It was their world was completely old Hollywood, and it was fabulous and all kinds of interesting people, and it was of another time, really, because they were much older when I was born. On the other hand, my mom and dad were determined that their kids not be Hollywood brats. So we grew up in just a normal suburban house. We never met I never knew one movie star.
So like Cary Grant wasn't coming over for a dinner party? And
Nobody.
Stuff like
I mean,
that?
I met a couple at my grandparents' house, but they were quite, long retired and stuff. So, but my parents were obsessed with us not being Hollywood kids.
Wow.
So as far as in my day, could have done anything really, and it was almost embarrassing sometimes when I was in school. Not embarrassing, but kids would go, "So what movie stars do you know?" And I was like, I think I met Katharine Hepburn once."
That's it.
But yeah, so
kidding.
But I'm really grateful for it because there was a degree of normalcy.
And then you wanted to become an actor then. How did that come about?
My poor father, yeah.
So you actually
he wasn't
got
happy
into
about
business.
that decision,
Right.
But it all worked out.
Yeah, obviously it did.
Yeah.
So you still wanted to get into the business.
I did, up until I was in my first high school play, I wanted to do anything but be in show business because that was kind of the family business. And then it was just in the genes, I guess, because I did a high school, the first play in high school, and that was it. I was bitten by the bug.
Tony Goldwyn of Scandal, which again, season 5 finale airs Thursday on Thursday, May 12th, a couple days from now, here on the Rich Eisen Show here in New York City. Ghost, when you were in that film, did you have any idea that you were in something that could be so iconic?
No, you never know.
Such a touchstone.
You never know. And also, I was so grateful to the job. I was a young actor. I'd been working, but for a few, I'd been struggling. Really trying to find some traction in my career, and pursued that job relentlessly, and ended up it was a miracle that I got cast in it. And then suddenly I was the lead, one of the leads in a movie. So I just couldn't believe it was actually happening. And you'd never know. I've over the years since then been in lots of things that seemed like surefire hits that just bombed, and then things that came out of nowhere and ended up being huge. So you never know. So I was just grateful to be on
I'm
that
assuming
train.
people, I just brought it up to you. I'm assuming people still come up to you and talk to you about that film.
Oh, yeah, every day. I mean, it's now obviously more Scandal than Ghost, but for years, every single day, people would mention that movie.
Now, who comes up to you from the world of sports, talk to you about Scandal? Who has come up to you and say, I love this show?
I had an embarrassing experience a couple of years ago. I was at a restaurant, and Chris Paul and his beautiful wife tapped me on the shoulder, and we were waiting for a table.
Yes.
And he said, "I'm sorry, my wife is a huge, and we just love your show. And could we just get a picture?" And I was like, "Of course. How are you?" And as I took a picture with them and chit-chatted, I had no idea who I was talking to. And my niece's husband was with me, Vinny, and he's like, "Tony, you know who that was, right?" I was like, "What? Who?" "That was Chris Paul." And I was like, "Oh my God." Because he just looked different, and I was so embarrassed. And then he went on, I think, The Tonight Show and made mention of it, because apparently he's like a famous Scandal fan and was obsessed with the show and was talking about it. And he said, "Yeah, and I met Tony Goldwyn. He was really nice, but I don't think he had any idea who I was." So then that became fodder for Kerry Washington to just abuse me for months,
Well, I mean, Chris isn't like 6'5".
Well, that was the thing,
he's
he's
not
a super tall guy.
Right. You wouldn't think that he is perhaps the best point guard of his generation.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So I had an excuse, but not a very good one.
I just, because I love that, because athletes, other than wanting to sing, want to act. All of them. Pretty much, except maybe Namdi. You maybe have met the only athlete who doesn't, although he did,
He'll
he
take
was,
over the
although
world.
Namdi wasn't.
He's done some Funny or Die. He's very good, actually.
Hold on a minute, but he also,
good,
I
yeah.
think he did Friday Night Lights. Didn't
He
Namdi
did do
appear
Friday
on Friday
Night
Night
Lights,
Lights too?
yeah.
So
And he's
I hold it back.
producing movies. He produced
Okay.
Beasts of No Nation and stuff. But he's,
So I
look,
take it
Namdi's
back
going to
then.
take over the world in a lot of different ways, I'm convinced.
He
'cause
might be
he's,
president one day.
Yeah, I would not be at all
By
surprised.
the way,
I would not be surprised.
but hopefully not in a Fitz Grant sort of way. You know
I'm
what I
not
mean?
even going to go there.
But I just love that people are coming up to you like Chris Paul and knocking on the door. How about
I had an amazing experience,
With?
which we touched on briefly a couple of years ago with Kobe Bryant.
now was he a fan of the
Speaking
show?
of the Lakers, and it was. I think when I had dinner with him one night, and I think it was our first season of Scandal when it was just starting. So it was like 5 years ago, and so I don't know that the show was known yet. It might not even have aired for the first time. I was doing it anyway. A friend of mine who is a brilliant actress. This is talking about people who all think they want to be actors. Who's an Academy Award-winning actress, and I was at her house for dinner. It was just a few people. Kobe was there with his wife, and he had. This says so much about what kind of athlete this guy was. He had contacted my friend because he so admired her work, and he'd done this with another actor who were like his favorite actors. And he said, I want to know how you do what you do. I have no interest in being an actor. I have no interest in acting at all. But the way you approach your game, I want to know what you do, and I want to get in your process because it'll help me be a better basketball player. And he actually went to her acting coach and had like a couple of sessions with the coach that she works with to try and understand so that he could approach basketball from a different perspective. And we had this incredible night, where we stayed up to like 3 o'clock in the morning and talked about excellence, because her boyfriend said, Kobe, how do you just keep getting better? And he talked about, how he spends 8 hours shooting free throws and that he just never thinks he's good enough, and he always stays interested in the game, and it's all about getting better and not ever laying back and saying, well, I'm Kobe Bryant.
Well, I'm not going to just let this go. You can refuse to answer, but who are these people that he reached out
I
to?
don't think she'd mind me. It was Hilary Swank and Sean Penn were the two actors that Kobe had contacted. And Hilary said that's how they had met. He literally cold called her and said, it's Kobe Bryant. And she said, you've made it when Kobe Bryant cold calls you. But, Hillary's won a couple of Oscars.
So was it $1 Million Baby that caused him to reach out?
This was a few years after, because I directed a movie that Hillary started. It was called Conviction. And that movie was just coming out. So we'd become pals. And I was going to her house for dinner. And she said, oh, by the way, I'm having some cool friends. And I walk in and there's Kobe. Like, oh, my God. But he's so charming and down to earth. And, literally, and I brought my then 19-year-old daughter, Anna, to the dinner, and I thought, wow, this is an incredible parenting moment, because she had like Hilary Swank and Sean Penn and Kobe Bryant talking about what makes them strive for excellence, way beyond being stars or all that stuff. It's about the real deal of why these people are as good as they are, and it was all about just like he's spending 8 hours shooting free throws. And
wow.
So,
now that I know that,
cool?
now looking back, I do think that Kobe did have a little bit of Hilary Swank in his game. Now that I see that,
Not
you know what I
even
mean? The last couple of years,
if you go rewatch
his 60-point finish,
the 60-point finish,
very
that's right.
Swank-like.
That's right.
Thanks for coming on the show,
My
Tony.
pleasure.
Really, when you're out in Los Angeles shooting Scandal or whatever you're doing, please come in our Los Angeles.
Oh, that'd be fun.
We're a
Great.
home game
Love
for
it.
you. We're a home game for you.
Awesome.
You can catch up on all the character storylines that you missed from season 5 on Scandal on the ABC Watch app, and season 5 finale is Thursday. This Thursday, 8 Eastern Time on ABC. Thanks for coming in, Tony.
Yeah,
appreciate it. You got it.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.